Hello Year 12. I would like to start with giving whole class feedback based on the 6 marker questions that you did last week. Excuse me. Now, there were 5 things that I noticed in multiple responses. So first of all, I need you to ensure that you use a range of subject-specific vocabulary, so changing places would be words such as topography, endogenous factors, etc. And obviously some of you have been quite skillful in synoptically linking to other areas, e.g. To hazards, and using terms from like the Cutter model like geographical context, which is really impressive. Please use direct quotes if the data is qualitative, like song lyrics, for instance, or texts. Please make sure you're concluding in your 6 marks as well, because that is important for structure. Where multiple figures are used, and today's lesson I'll be setting another 6 marker with multiple figures. Make sure you are drawing comparisons or contrasts between all of the different figures, and please make sure you're addressing the command word of the question. So for instance, one of the 6 markers, it asked about the usefulness of artistic representation, and seldom few of you actually mentioned the word usefulness. So please make sure you make note of those feedbacks for going forth. So today we're on to changing places 6, and we'll be looking at quantitative and qualitative skills. But I'm going to start by taking you back for a second. So for the starter, I would like you to consider whether Haverhill is a palimpsest. So just taking you back to that word palimpsest. A historical example is in front of you at the moment. So this is shown as layers of history written as text upon each other, whereas although new layers are visible, you can still see the historical layers beneath it. And obviously this term palimpsest can be used to describe place. So if you have a quick read now of what a palimpsest actually is, when we link this to actually place, we might look at architecture, for instance, so old historical buildings and then newer developments built upon it. And these newer developments alongside or juxtaposed with the older developments give a real sense of place to the location, and it really shows us that places are dynamic. So linking that to Haverhill, just take a second to have a look at some of the images that I've put on the board here for you to have a think about how and why Haverhill has changed over time, but yet keeps certain elements of its history, therefore, or thus making it a palimpsest. Now, obviously we were talking about this in last lesson, but there is a new emerging layer of Haverhill's future history. So I found some artistic impressions of what the Haverhill Research Park stands to look like, and actually when you're coming into Haverhill, this is going to give a totally different sense of place. So with the epicentre there, so a high-rise quaternary industry, it gives a total different feel to this, previously industrial London overspill town. So I want you to do something for next week's learning, actually. So I want you to think about whereabouts do you live, and I want you to have a little palimpsest walk around your locale. And I'd like you to take a few pictures of the different layers of history that you notice, and I'd like you to share them in next week's Teams meeting, please. So just looking at the different layers of history in your locale, please. And I've put a little link on there on the PowerPoint for those of you that live in Clare, for a little bit of a short history for that one too, because I know the rest of you dwell in Haverhill. Secondly, for the recap, I'd like you to pause the video here quickly, please, and look at some of the processes that can affect place identity. I'd just like you to remind yourself of these 4 different key words and what they mean with regards to urban growth, and how they can actually affect places, and whether the effect that they will have on places will actually be positive or negative. Okay, moving on. This one is in here, obviously a meme that none of you will probably laugh at this point, but it made me laugh. So, what we're going to move on to, what we will move on to now, sorry about that. What we will move on to is today's lesson, using geographical and geospatial data in your studies. So there's a few questions I would like you to pause the video and answer. So big data, I kind of alluded to this in last Teams meeting lesson. I want us to think about what we already know about big data, and our objectives are going to be looking at big data and explain how it can actually be related to place and then applying it. So I want you to pause the video here and watch this short TED Talk, which is delivered by Kenneth Cukier, who is well known as a journalist within The Economist, and the book on big data that he actually wrote about the revolution that can come from the use of this big data. So watch this, and again we will discuss this this TED Talk in next lesson on Teams. So I want you to think about what big data is. So we look at big data in the volume, so you know the size of it, the velocity, so this can be real-time data that is collected, and the digital footprint. Now, a lot of you have mentioned when we were talking about this on Wednesday that when you've looked at something to purchase and you've accepted cookies, that then on all your other social media, the images of that bag or those shoes or whatever it might be will actually start appearing. And that's because you've accepted those cookies and that now knows what your interest is. Same with other areas, you know, so Netflix, it will recommend other things for you to watch. Disney Plus will do exactly the same. Google will try and preempt what you are going to ask it. Amazon will try and recommend different products to you also. So I want you to now consider why this big data is important and who it might be important to. I'm going out for a walk in a second, girls. So as I was explaining earlier, big data is something that's vital to many multinational and transnational corporations when looking at their clientele. So the brief I'm giving you is you are a CEO of a well-known high-end retailer and you want to expand your food and groceries arm of your business because of so many people shopping online for food now due to COVID-19, and you want to find 2 new locations. Now, because you're quite a high-end, you're looking for middle-aged, wealthy professionals that will actually be able to afford to do their weekly, daily shopping with you. So the food delivery service will operate within a 10-mile radius and you want to trial this in 2 different locations with a 10-mile radius around it. So I want you to use the following websites, and I would like you to come up with 2 locations that you would like to branch out and trial your delivery service in. You will present your 2 locations with some data as to why you've chosen those 2, so based on the socio-economic attributes and demographics of these 2 areas to present. Any questions about that, guys, please ping me an email. Okay, a little bit of textbook time. I would like you just to go through the textbook pages which I've put below and just make any further notes about big data, the IMD, and also deprivation over time. I don't necessarily need you to do the activities, but if you find them helpful to do those as well, please do. So now it's on to exam time. Now we need to learn from our mistakes or misconceptions from earlier feedback. So first of all, you've got some quantitative data here. So figure 6 shows data from estate agents looking at how a local town's house prices has changed temporally over a 30-year period. Now, this is a 6 marker, but it's AO1, so knowledge for 2 marks, and application for 4 marks. Now, remember, one of the feedbacks was using words, command words. So this is assess the usefulness, again it's that usefulness word, of house price data, as in figure 6, in helping to understand the nature of a local place, comparing it with other quantitative sources that you used in studying places. So it's quite a beefy question. Now be careful with this question because you are using figure 6, so you might want to use and manipulate some of the data, but it is based on your own knowledge as well. So you've actually got to compare figure 6, helping you understand how this house pricing, this one particular domain, and you can also compare that with other sources that you could use to get a clearer picture, like income data, for instance. Or even schools, Ofsted reports, whatever it might be that you choose. Now the mark scheme is there. You feel free to have a little skim and have a look at it before you answer your question, but remember that structure of this is key. So you'll find the mark scheme just here, and make sure you're using a wide variety of key terms. There's one other question I'd like you to try as well. So this is again from the feedback. I've deliberately chosen a multiple figure question. So it's a 6 marker question again. So it's about Weston-super-Mare in North Somerset. So figure A is a qualitative word cloud on a recent health survey. Figure 3B is the population, so that is quantitative. So you've got one qualitative, one quantitative. And then figure 5C, which shows the reasons for residents not being in employment in the ward. Now you've got to analyse, so it's an AO3, so it's very data rich, but you must include comparisons between all three and drawing comparisons. Also, because some of it is qualitative, you'll want to use direct quotes. So for instance, for the first one, some of the most strongest words that came across in the health survey, such as family, exercise, money. Then you've obviously got your demographics, which you can utilise, and you've got the reasons for residents not being in employment. So have a go again at this question. Remember your structure, it needs a clear conclusion, and as this is an AO3, it's got to be incredibly data rich whilst showing information and comparing and contrasting between all three figures. So good luck. So what I would like from you for next lesson is obviously I want you to have some photographs of your own locale and the layers of history. I would like to hear from you on your choices of your location for branching out your food and groceries, and I would like you to submit both of your 6-mark questions. Good luck guys, I am available anytime for any support.